Hello friends, in this session we are going to see the most important topic for all the banking exams, that is percentage. Because percentage is the backbone for entire arithmetic. So be it simple interest, compound interest, be it profit and loss, be it mixtures allegation, all this topic will definitely require the concept of the percentage. And if you are good with the percentage, because that is the basic topic. So if you're good with percentage, then only you get to know the topics better and you can solve the questions on your own, and that too very conveniently, comfortably. So that is why one must be very, very good at percentage. So we'll see every aspect of the topic percentage, all the different type of the question that they ask, and also the application part of percentage in different topics. So let's start with the percentage. How do we calculate percentage and the application of fractions into it? Now, what do we mean by fractions? Because fraction is something that in school days we've been never taught of, but in competitive exams, you will be requiring the fractions. So first of all, how to calculate percentage? If I say I got 60% mark out of 500 in my exam, so how many marks I got? That means you have to calculate 60% of 500. So how do you calculate 60% of 500? So what you do is 500 into 60 upon 100. So this is how you calculate 60% of 500. 0, 0 goes, and then answer is 300. So 60% of 500 is 300. Now let's say you have to calculate 25% of 480. So what you do is then 480 into 25 upon 100. You know 25 ones are 25, 25 fours are 100, and then 480 upon 4 is 120. But what you have to learn from here is, whenever you have to calculate 25%, you can just multiply a number with 1 by 4, or you can just divide a number by 4, because 25% means a quarter or 1/4. So now onwards, if you can just remember the 25% fraction of which is 1 by 4. That means calculating 25% is multiplying a number with 1 by 4. That will make it very easy to calculate 25%. Because there are certain figures in percentage of which if you remember the fractions, that is going to become very, very easy. For example, if I ask you, what is 11.11% of 900? Now, if you try to calculate it with the normal method, then it might feel a little tricky, but there is a fraction 11.11%. The fraction value of it is 1 by 9. As 25% was equal to 1 by 4, 11.11% is 1 by 9. So all you have to do is 900 into 1 by 9, and that will be 100, right? So in competitive exams, it is expected that you know the fractions, because there will be the questions based on simplification. So you know simplification, 5 questions are there in the banking exams. So in those simplification questions, some part might be like this, where if you know the fraction, then you can solve it easily. Otherwise, you can take a lot of time to solve easiest of the question. That is why one must know the fractions. So let me show you the table, the fraction table here. So this is the table that you must know. You can find this table anywhere, on Google also, in books also. So the application part of it, as I said, is immense, because if you say have to calculate 14.28% of 14.28% of 714, and if you know the fraction value is 1 by 7, so all you have to do is take 714 and do 1 by 7 of it. 7 ones are 7 zeros are 7 twos. Let's take one more example. If you have to calculate 27.27% of 462. Now, what is the fraction value of 27.27%? If you see the table, we don't have 27.27%, but what we have is 9.09%. The fraction value of which is 1 by 11. So if 9.09% is 1 by 11, we want 27.27%, which is exactly 3 times of it. 3 times. So the right hand side also will be 3 times. That makes it 3 by 11. So not only these fractions, but their multiples also to be memorized. And you don't have to just sit and memorize everything. You have to incorporate into your daily practice. You have to practice till the moment it comes naturally. And once it comes naturally, trust me, it is going to be very, very beneficial. Due to the time limit, I can't explain every benefit of this, remembering this or utilizing this. But over the period, you will realize on your own that how once you start understanding the fraction, how entire arithmetic start getting very, very easily and comfortable. Okay. So as we discussed, 27.27% will be 3 by 11. So all you have to do is 3 by 11 times of 462. And you know, if you divide this with 11, 11 4s are 44, 11 2s are 22, and 42 into 3 will be 126. So 126 will be the answer. Easy? So I'm leaving this table up to you. Please memorize it before even starting the practice of arithmetic, because this is going to be useful in every part of arithmetic. So this is what we learn before we start even the concept as a of percentage, because calculation part is important. Now let's see what percentage is. Why do we require percentage? What are the applications of it? Now consider there is a person A who got 30 marks in the exam and another person B who got 50 marks in the exam. So if I ask you who got more marks, so definitely B has got more marks. But if I ask you who performed better, I mean, we want to compare the performance, then you can't exactly say that B has performed better because the exams that they are giving might be different. If I say A got 30 marks out of 50, but B got 50 marks out of 200, then who has performed better? Although B still has more marks than A, but because the scales are different, you can't judge them or compare them based on just the marks. You have to now see the base as well. Base means out of how much. And because the base is different, we can't compare on this scale here. We have to get them on the same scale. So what we see is, we see if A has got 30 marks out of 50, so out of 100, how much? So because we have doubled it, we'll have to double this as well. So 30 into 2, 60. So we say if he has got 30 out of 50, that means 60 out of 100. Similarly, if B has got 50 out of 200, that means out of 100, because we are doing half of it. So we'll have to do half of the numerator as well. That means 25. So you say if he has got 50 out of 200, that means out of 100, he has got 25. And now because the bases are same, bases are 100, we say A has got 60 out of 100 or 60 per 100 or 60%. So the name percent itself means percent. Cent means 100. So when you calculate a number based on as a base of 100, means per 100, that is called as percentage. So this sign does not mean anything but divide by 100. So whenever you see this sign, you don't get confused. You just have to understand it is going to be divided by 100. So 60 upon 100 means 60%. Similarly, another person has got 25 upon 100, that means 25%. And now you can say easily that because 60% is more than 25%, A has performed better than B. That is why we require percentage. That is why we require percentage to compare things. Percentage GDP growth of one country, percentage GDP growth of another country. You can't just calculate everything. You can't just compare the GDPs. Because a country, if a big country, Obviously the GDP is going to be more as compared to smaller country. But then what we compare is percent GDP. We can compare percentage literacy. We compare percentage rainfall. So this is what we compare when we compare the performance, and that is why we require the percentage. Now, whenever we talk about the percentage, we require certain kinds of comparisons. That means one part is different, that if you want to calculate, say, a percent of B, then what you have to do is, because as I just said, percent sign itself means divide by 100. So you have to do A upon 100, of means into, and B. So if you have to calculate a percent of B, that is different. This is how you do A by 100 into B. But if you have to compare two numbers, if you have to calculate A is a number, is what percent of B? A is what percent of B? For example, 30 is what percent of 40? If that is what you have to calculate, then how it is done? You have to write A upon B into 100. Okay, this is very important. I hope you know this stuff already, but if you don't know, or if you are still confused about it, then it might cost you some marks, because in data interpretation, 5 marks complete set will be asked, where lots of questions will be just about comparing two numbers. Sales of this year is what percent of sales of those year? What is the percent increase from 2014 to 2015? So everywhere you will have to compare the numbers as form of percentage. That is why you must be clear in your head how to compare the numbers with the percentage. So that is why you have to write this. A is what percent of B means A upon B. Of B, that tells you what is going to be the base. So A upon B into 100. And then you can say 30 upon 40 into 100. And then the answer will be 75%. Easily. Then another form of comparison could be A is what percent less than B. Again, let's say A is 30, B is 40. So this time you are asked A is what percent less than B. So in the numerator, you have to write the difference between these two. And in the base, it will go B, because as compared to B, it is asked. Than B means the base should be B, and into 100. So in the numerator, you write the difference between the numbers, which is 10, and in the base, you write B, that is 40, into 100. And if you solve this, that is going to be 25%. Similarly, if they ask you B is what percent more than A, B is what percent more than A, and this time B is 40, A is 30. So in the numerator, it will be the difference. And then in the base, it is going to be A, because than A it is asked. So base will be A. So the difference is 10, A is 30, into 100 if you do. And if you cancel 0, 0. So you don't have to even calculate 100 by 3 if you know the fraction. The fraction table that we saw, 1 by 3's fraction value is 33.33%. Hence, the answer here is going to be 33.33%. So whenever you see a percentage related question, it will be about comparison of numbers, and only these many ways you compare a number with another one. Either you have to calculate A is what percent of B, that means one number is what percent of another number, or one number is what percent less or more than the another. So those many different forms you have to see. Another version to look at it could be, if A is 30 and B is 40, this time, let's say A is the price 1 of the article and B is the price 2. That means the increased price of the article. You increase the price. Now the price becomes 40. And if they ask you P2, or from P1 to P2, what is percent increase? So percent increase means what? Same thing. That is, P is what percent more than A. So percent increase means P2 minus P1, the difference between the price divided by the P1, the base price on which that increase is happening, into 100. So this is how you calculate percent increase, or in general percent change. So percent change is nothing but the form of percent less than or percent more than in different language. So all you have to do is you have to write the difference between the initial value and final value, and the base will always be initial value into 100. Okay. So it be it percent increase, percent decrease, or in general percent change, the base will always be the initial value on which that change is happening. And then you can easily say the difference between these two is 10, and the previous value was 30 into 100, and that is 33.33%. Okay. So percent increase, percent decrease, or percent change, also the forms of the basic questions that are told. Now, once you are good at it, you are well to solve certain type of questions. Of course, those we'll see. But now we have to see one more important concept, that is successive percent change. Now, what do you mean by successive percent change? If I say price 1 of article is 100 rupees, it is first increased by 20%, and then if it is increased by 30%, what is the resultant percent change? What is the resultant percent change means what? If the price directly goes from here to end point, what is the percent change? So we can say if price was 100 initially, it is increased by 20%. What is 20% of 100? It is 20. So it is increased by 20. So it will become 120. And now 120, the price, you have to increase by 30%. 10% of it is going to be 12. So 30% will be 36, 3 times of it. So it will increase by 36 and it will become 156. So the final price or price 2 of the article is going to be 156. So if 100 is now directly becoming 156, what is the percent change? That is called as the resultant percent change. So you know how to calculate that? The difference upon base means the initial value, into 100, and that is going to be 56%. Because the base is 100 and the change is 56. That means 56% change. So this is what we call a successive percent change, the resultant of these two. One important thing that you have to notice, if you change the order, it does not matter. If first you increase it with 30%, 100 increased by 30% will become 130. And then if you increase it by 20%, 20% means 10% will be 13, 20% will be 26. It still becomes 156 and resultant will still be 56%. So if you shuffle the order, it does not matter. And secondly, you can use the formula to solve these type of questions. That is called a successive percent change formula. So formula is for this number. So what is the formula? If you say the first percent increase is A, the second percent increase is B, the resultant percent change is given as A plus B plus A into B upon 100. So you just have to put these values. A is 20, B is 30, plus 20 into 30 upon 100. And then if you solve 20 plus 30, 50, 50 plus 6, 56%. Okay, you just have to take a note of it. If it is percent increase, if it is increasing, then you put the sign plus. If it is decreasing, then you put the sign minus as A and B. Okay, we'll see some examples based on this, but this formula is to be used only in case if there are two changes. If multiple changes are there, yes, we can use the formula, but then you'll have to use the formula multiple times. So better solve the question by general concept that we have just seen. If you can manually increase the number, that will be really good. Or if the figures are suggesting so, where formula is to be used, formula is easy, then only use the formula. Otherwise, you can use the normal concept as well. Let's see one more form of this. It says price of petrol is increased by 20% and consumption is increased by 30%. What is the percent increase in expenditure? So what is the relation between expenditure, price, and consumption? Price is like the per liter price. So if I say 100 rupees per liter is the price, and if you fill 10-liter petrol, that is called as the consumption. So what is the total cost? 100 into 10, 1000. That is called as the expenditure. So expenditure is what? Price into consumption. So if you increase, the price of the petrol is increased by 20%. So it will become 120. Consumption is increased by 30%. So 30% of 10 is 3. So it will become 13. So the new expenditure will be 120 into 13. That is 1560. So if I ask you what is the percent increase in expenditure, if 1000 is becoming 1560, you know how to calculate the percent increase? The increase, which is 560, upon the base, which is 1000, into 100. And that is 56%. So the percent change in expenditure is 56%. So that tells us that if expenditure is equal to price into consumption, price is increased by 20% and consumption is increased by 30%, then expenditure is increased by 56%. And 56% means what? You can again use the formula. The formula is, if you put this is A as 20% and B as 30%, so we can just put A plus B plus AB upon 100. And that will get us 56%, which is the percent change in expenditure. So this formula that we have seen can be used now in two different conditions. If we increase a number first with A percent, then with B percent, and if you are asked what is the resultant percent increase, then also this is the resultant percent increase. Or as in this case, if there is a number which is product of two quantities, or a quantity like expenditure is product of price into consumption. Price increased by A percent, consumption increased by B percent. That makes expenditure increase by A plus B plus AB upon 100. So same goes in this case as well. If X increases by, if Y increased by A percent, Z increased by B percent, then X increased by these percent, A plus B plus AB upon. So two different conditions, the successive percent change formula can be used. Okay. So sometimes you might require the formula, sometimes will require the better that you know the fractions. Sometimes because if the figure suggests so, sometimes you might have to use the fractions as well. Let me give you a quick example here. If I say price is increased by 11.11% and consumption is decreased by 10%. So what is the percent change in expenditure? What is the percent change in expenditure? Now for these type of question, if you try to use the formula, it will be little difficult because A plus B plus AB upon 100. Now 11.11 plus 10 plus 11.11 into 10 upon 100. A little bit you'll have to face tricky. But if you realize the fraction values of these numbers like 11.11%, the fraction value is 1 by 10. That means 11.11% change means there is a change of 1 on, sorry, my mistake. It is not 1 by 10, it is 1 by 9. That means there is a change of 1 on 9. This is how you read it. So if there is an increase of 11.11%, that means 9 is becoming 10. 9 is increased by 1 and it's becoming 10. So what you do is you can start your question considering the price as 9 rupees. Price as 9 rupees. So 9's 11.11% is 1. So if it is increasing by 11.11%, it is now going to become 10. And what is the fraction value of 10? The fraction value of 10% is 1 by 10. So if you are increasing a number with 10%, that means there is increase, or decreasing a number with 10%, that means there is a decrease of 1 on 10. So you can start considering your consumption, initial consumption as 10. So if you say initial consumption was 10, now it is going to decrease by 10% and is going to become 9. So earlier expenditure was 9 into 10, that is 90. Now the expenditure is 10 into 9, that is 90. That means there is no change or 0% change in consumption. Sorry, expenditure. So in this question, if had you used the formula, yes, you could have got the answer, but would be little tricky. If you realize the fractions, that makes it little easy. Okay, so sometimes you might have to use the fraction, sometimes you will have to use the formula or general figure also. You can just take 100 and start your question with that as well. Okay, so this is all for the theory. Let us discuss the question because the type of the questions are different. So we can better learn with the type of the questions now. For example, this is the question. Length of rectangle is decreased by 10 and breadth is increased by 30. What is the percent change in area? So yes, you can solve this question by taking normal figures. You can just say that if length initially was 10 and breadth also was 10, so area 1 means initial area was 10 into 10, that is 100. But what is the area now? Because length is decreased by 10. So if early length was 10, now the length is going to be 9 because 10% of 10 means 1. So it is decreasing by 10%. So it is going to become 9. And the breadth, this is length, this is breadth. And the breadth is decreased by 30%. So if 10 is decreased by 30%, it is going to become 7. So 9 into 7, the new area, length into breadth will be 63. And if you have to calculate what is the percent change in the area, so 100 is becoming 63. That means there is a decrease of 27 or 37. Sorry. There is a decrease of 37 on 100 means 37% change, 37% decrease. Can you use the formula? Yes. In formula, you will have to put the value of A as minus 10 because it is a decrease and B as minus 30 because there is again decrease. So, you know, area is equal to length into breadth. This is decreasing by 10%. This is decreasing by 30%. So you can just say A plus B plus A into B upon 100. That gets us minus 10 minus 30 is minus 40. And this minus minus will become plus. 0 zeros will get cancelled. So it will become plus 3. So minus 40 plus 3 is minus 37. And minus sign tells you that there will be resultant decrease in the area. Okay. So you can use the formula also or the normal figure also. Of course, I recommend to go with the normal approach. Okay, formula to be used only if the numbers are little critical like 12 and 13. If 12 is there, 13 is there, then it is easy to use the formula. But otherwise, you can just take the normal figures like 10, 10 and still solve the question very easily. Let's see one more. Price of article is increased by 40% first and then decreased by 20%. What is the percent decrease increase in the price? So, you know, if price, you can start considering 100. First, it is increased by 40%. It will become 140. And now it is decreased by 20%. So what is 20% of is 10% will be 14, 20% will be 28, 2 times of it. So if you decrease it with 28, it will now become 112. Resultantly, if 100 rupees is becoming 112, that means there is a 12% increase in the price. Okay. Yes, you can use the formula. In formula, just put A as 40 and B as minus 20, and you can get the answer very, very easy. Let's see one more. Now, general question. If decreasing 400 by P% gives same as increasing 160 by P%, then P% of 700 is equal to. Decreasing 400 by P% means what? If you decrease a number with P%, that means from 400, you subtract P% of 400. So what I'm doing is 400 minus 400's P%. That gives us the same result as increasing 160 by P%. So 160 plus P% of 160. That is the result. What you can do is you can just take 400 common from here. What we are left with is 1 minus P upon 100. And if from here, if you take 160 common, we are left with 1 plus P upon 100. Now again, you can simplify it. It will become 400 into 100 minus P upon 100 is equal to 160 into 100 plus P upon 100. The 100 will get cancelled. 100 will get cancelled. 0 can get cancelled like this. And then this is 4 times. Or directly we can say 8's 2 times and 8's 5 times. And then you can just solve 5 into 100, that is 500 minus 5p is equal to 2 into 100 plus 2p. That gets us 300 is equal to 7p. So p will be equal to 300 upon 7. They are asking us what is P% of 700. So how to calculate P% of 700? We have seen this 700 into P%. P% means P upon 100. Upon 100 means 100 will go in the denominator. So just cancel this everything. The answer will be 300. So the answer here is going to be 300. Easy. Let's see one more. %% of A minus B is equal to 20% of A plus B. What percent of A is B? So here, because I told you already, the percent sign does not mean anything but divide by 100. So you can cancel the percent like this. You can just cancel a percent like this. 0 can also get cancelled. And then you can just make equation 4 times A minus B is equal to 2 times A plus B. So that gets us 4A minus 4B is equal to 2A plus 2B. Taking AA on one side, 4A minus 2A will be 2A. 2B plus 4B will be 6B. That means A upon B is equal to 6 upon 2 or 3 upon 1. That means if B is 1, A is 3. They are asking you what percent of A is B. That means B is what percent of A. So how to solve that? We already discussed B is what percent of A. That means in the base there will be A. That is 3. So 1 by 3 into 100 is 33.33%. So B is 33.33% of A. Easy. Let's see one more. Now this is the question that they ask in RBI Grade B 20. A number when multiplied by 7 gives another number which is as much above 260 as the original number itself below 260. Now the language might be a little tricky, but what it means is 260 is the average of these two numbers. Let's see how. Basically, a number when multiplied by 7. So let's say this is a number line. Our number is n. Number is n. When you multiply it with 7, it becomes 7n. So 7n will be somewhere here on the number line. Okay, considering n is a positive number. So the question is so. So it will be on the right side 7n. The new number is as much above 260 as the original number below 260. That means 260 lies somewhere in between these two. The new number, how much ever it is above 260, the original number was below 260. That means the distance between these two numbers on the number line is equal to distance between these two numbers. That means basically 260 is the center of these two numbers. 260 is the center of these two numbers. Center means average. 260 is the average. But if you're still finding that difficult, you can just make equation like this. What is the difference between these two numbers, 260 and n? Difference means 260 minus n. Same difference should be between these two. That means that should be equal to 7n minus 260. That gets us 260 plus 260, 520 on one side. N goes this side, that gets us 8n. That means n is equal to 8 6 are 48, 8 5 are. N is equal to 65. If n is 65, that means the original number is 65. They're asking us what is 32% of original number. So 32% of original number, which is 65. This is what you have to calculate. You can just solve this. 5 is 13 times, 5 is 20 times. 4 is 8 times, 4 is 5 times. 18 into 3, 10.4 upon 5. That is 20.8. 104 upon 5 is 20.8. The answer is going to be 20.8. Easy. Let's see one more. Now, this is again one of the very typical question. Length of rectangular plot is increased by 10% to keep its area unchanged. The width of the plot should be. So, if it is a rectangular plot, so formula is area is equal to length into breadth. You have to increase the length by 10%. So what is the fraction value of 10%? 10% fraction value is 1 by 10. So what you can do is you can start your question considering length as 10. So length, if 10, 10% is 1. So if it is increasing by 10%, that means it is increasing by 1. So length is now going to become 11. If you have to keep the area constant, so whatever the area here, same area should be here. So if you want to keep the area constant, what you do is you consider the original base as this number. So what happens, because if you consider original base as 11, this, because the product is 10 into 11, 110. Here also the product should be 110. So in order the product to be 110, here the new base has to be then 10. Because 11 into what 110? 11 into 10. So what I'm trying to tell here is, you don't have to think much about these type of question. Once you realize 10% increasing length means length is going to go from 10 to 11. That means the breadth has to go from 11 to 10. If this is going from 10 to 11, this has to go from 11 to 10. That is what keeping area constant means. So if breadth has to go from 11 to 10, what is the percent decrease? How to calculate percent decrease? The decrease, which is 1, upon the base value, which is 11, into 100. This is how you calculate percent decrease. And if you know already the fraction of 1 by 11 from our table, which is 9.09%, so you can directly say it is reduced by 9.09% because it has gone from 11 to 10. Easy? Let's see one more. Income of Sumit is first increased by 28.56%. Now, what is the fraction of 28.56%? If you see the table, 14.28% is 1 by 7. It is 2 times of it. So it is 2 by 7. The fraction value here is 2 by 7. But after a few months, his inconsistency in work increased, due to which he has been demoted and received punishment of pay cut of 33 points. That means his salary decreased by 33.33%. What is the fraction? Fraction is 1 by 3. So, first his salary is going to increase by 2 by 7. So you can start considering his initial income as 7, because you have to divide the number by 7. So best figure to start with is 7. So you can say his initially salary was 7. If it is increased by 2 by 7, that means there is increase of 2 on 7. So increasing it with 2 by 7 means 7's 2 by 7, that is 2. So we are going to increase it with 2. That makes it 9. And now it is going to decrease with 1 by 3. 33.33% means 1 by 3. So what is 1 by 3 of 9? 1 by 3 of 9 is 3. So if decrease by 3, it becomes 6. So if salary initially was 7, now it is 6. What is the percent decrease? There is decrease of 1 on 7. So once decrease on 7, and the fraction value of 1 by 7 is 14.28%. Hence, the salary is decreased by 14.28% overall. Easy? Let's see one more. The cost of cinema ticket was 350. This was reduced by 20%. As the result, total sales is increased by 20%. Find the percent increase in the number of audience. So, first of all, we have to form the equation. Total sales means what? Total sales is like total revenue earned out of selling tickets. So, price of tickets into number of tickets or number of audience should be equal to total sales. This is how the equation will be. Price of one ticket into number of tickets should be equal to total revenue or total sales. So, because the question is about the percentage, you don't have to go with their figure. You can just maintain your own figure that you like. The figure which 20% you can easily calculate. So you can just say price was 10 initially and number of tickets were also 10 initially. So the total sales would be 100, 10 into 10, 100. Now the price is reduced by 20%. That means the new price is 8. The price is reduced by 20%. That means the new price is 8. Number of tickets, we don't know what is the new number of that. But what we know is the total sales is increased by 20%. So if initially there were 100 sales, they are now increased by 20%. That means 120 rupees you are getting out of selling total tickets. So if price of one ticket is 8, so 8 into what is 120? For that, you can just do 120 upon 8. That figure will be 15. 120 upon 8 is 15. That means earlier, if number of tickets were 10, now they are 15. So what is the percent change they are asking? Percent change is the change upon the base value in 200, and easily that is half means 50%. 50% increase in the number of tickets or number of audience. The answer here is 50%. Easy? Yes, you can use the formula also. How the formula will work here? You know the total sales are increased by 20%. That means the resultant is 20%. Price is decreased by 20%. That means the formula we use, A should be 20% and B we have to calculate. So just use the formula A plus B plus AB upon 100 should be equal to the resultant change. So 20 should be equal to minus 20 plus B plus minus 20 into B upon 100. This goes that side, it becomes 40. 40 is equal to, that will be 1 by 5. So 4B upon 5. That gets us B is equal to plus 50. Plus sign tells you that there is a resultant increase in the B. B means number of audience by 50%. Easy? Let's see one more. Due to an increase of 40% in the price of egg, 24 eggs less are available for 560. Find the present rate of eggs per dozen. So first we'll solve the question by making normal equation. Because making equation is always better. If something new comes up, then only equation helps us. Due to increase of 40% in the price. So, price into consumption is expenditure. Here the consumption will be how many dozens you are buying. 24 eggs, we can convert it into dozen, that is 2 dozens. So price is going to increase by 40%. So initial price, if I say, was 10x. The new price will be 14x because the price is increased by 14%. Earlier also we had 560 rupees to spend. Now also we have 560 rupees to spend. That means 560 is the expenditure. So what is the consumption? Consumption will be expenditure upon price. So 560 upon 10x, which is 56 upon x. So earlier you could buy 56 upon x eggs, dozen eggs. Now the consumption will be 560 upon 14x. That is 40 upon x. So now you can buy 40 upon x number of eggs, which is 2 dozen less. Earlier you were buying these many dozens. Now you are buying these many dozens. So these are 2 dozen less than the original ones. So the equation form will be 56 upon x minus 2 should be 40 upon x. So that gets us 16 upon x is equal to 2. X will be equal to 8. So if x is 8, you have to put 8 here because they are asking what is the present rate. Present rate means the new rate. So put x is equal to 8 here. 14 into 8, that is 112. 112, that is none of this. 112 means none of these. Okay. Now, how can we solve this question orally or more quickly? Expenditure is price into consumption. So price is increased by 40% means what? If early price was say 10, now the price is going to become 40. This is what it means by increasing 40% in the price. That means if consumption early was 40, now the consumption is 10, as we discussed already, because expenditure is same. So if consumption earlier was 14, now it is 10. That means early if you could buy 14 dozen, now you can buy 10 dozen. What is the difference here? The difference is only 4 or 4 dozen. But actual difference is only 2 dozen. That means the scale is going to get half. Scale is going to get half. So it is not 14, 10. It is rather 7 and 5. That means the prices scale is also 5 and 7. So earlier if price was 5, now the price is 7. Earlier if you could buy 7 dozen, now you can buy only 5 dozen. So if you can buy 5 dozen for 560 rupees, what is the price per dozen? What is the price per dozen? So in 560 rupees, if you can buy 5 dozen, that means the price per dozen rate is 112 rupees per dozen. So, of course, it requires a little practice, little thinking. You can solve it like this, but I always prefer making equations and solve basics. If you are good with calculation and making equations, then especially them exams like RBI Grade B, where quantitative aptitude has not much portion or not much weightage for your final result. So you don't have to go too depth into topics, every topic. You can just work upon the basic things like calculation and the basics like equation, and you can still get a very decent score. Okay, let's see one more. Now, this is one of the very, very typical question that they ask in these exams about the votings. There are 3 voting booths in the city. The number of voters in the first 2 booths is 52% and 46% of the third. So there are 3 booths. Booth number 1, booth number 2, booth number 3. So booth number 3, let's say, has 100x. Now, why I'm starting with booth number 3? Because both are given as a percentage of third. So if third is 100x, first is 52% of it, that is 52x, and second has 46% of it, that is 46x. The difference in the number of voters of the first and second, the difference between these two. What is the difference between these two? 52 and 46. The difference is 6x. That difference is given as 7686. That makes x is equal to 6 ones are 6 twos are 6 eights are 6 ones are. X is 1281. They are asking find the total number of voters in all three booths. So total number of voters in all three booths will be 100 plus 52 plus 46. That is 198x. So you just have to put x here to get the answer. Now you can solve this, of course, but one more thing you can now realize is 198 is multiple of 9 also, and 11 also. It is multiple of 11 also. We have seen the divisibility rules as a topic. So your answer should also be multiple of 9 and 11. So if you can figure out quickly the options which is multiple of 9 and 11 both. So you realize the answer should be multiple of 9 and 11 both. So even if you can quickly figure out the multiples of 9 and 11 both from the option will be helpful, or you can just do the product. So the answer is going to be option number 3. Easy. Let's see one more. Two candidates appear in an election and both of them casted a total vote of 2,30,000. The difference in the votes of both the candidates was 40,000. Find the percent of vote received by the winning candidate. So you know, if the winning candidate got W vote and the losing candidate got L number of votes, so the total number of votes was 2,30,000. And the difference between both is given as 40,000. So two equation, two variables, you can solve for the W. So you can just add first of all both. So W plus W will get 2W, LL will get cancelled, and that is 2,70,000. So W will be 2,70,000 upon 2, that is 1,35,000. You are asked what is the percentage of vote received by winning candidates. That means the number of votes received by winner is what percent of total votes. So this number is what percent of this. You know how to calculate? 1,35,000 upon 2,30,000 in 200. Cancel out zero zeros like this. 2 zeros, 2 zeros, 2 zeros, 2 zeros. And then you can solve. You solve this, it is going to be 58.69%. Option number 1. Easy.